At a recent state council meeting, women running for the CTA leadership positions were victims of inappropriate comments while campaigning. This is disappointing and honestly painful, not only for the women involved, but really for our entire organization. While sexual harassment happens to both women and men, these derogatory comments were directly aimed at the female candidates. We know this was not an isolated incident, and since we want CTA to be a safe place for everyone, the board of directors would like to take a few minutes this morning to share some facts about sexual harassment and to remind all of us that no one asks for it, and there is no excuse for it.
Sexual harassment is a form of sex discrimination that violates the civil rights of 1964. It is defined as unwelcome sexual advances, requests for sexual favors, and other verbal or physical conduct of a sexual nature when this conduct explicitly or implicitly affects an individual's employment, unreasonably interferes with an individual's work performance, or creates an intimidating, hostile, or offensive environment. The law applies to businesses, federal, state, and local governments, employment in agencies, and labor organizations.
The victim, as well as the harasser, may be a woman or a man. The victim does not have to be of the opposite sex. The harasser can be the victim's supervisor, an agent of the employer, a co-worker, or a non-employee. The victim does not have to be the person harassed, but can be anyone affected by the offensive conduct.
Sadly, sexual harassment is very common. 1 in 3 women between the ages of 18 to 34 has been sexually harassed at work.
You don't have to be touched to be sexually harassed. Verbal abuse is also sexual harassment. More than 80% of women report experiencing verbal harassment. Street harassment is unwanted comments, gestures, and actions forced on someone in a public place without their consent and is directed at them because of their actual or perceived sex, gender expression, or sexual orientation. Street harassment includes unwanted whistling, leering, sexist slurs, vulgar gestures, sexually explicit comments, and kissing noises.
Sexual harassment is not always recognized. 16% of women said no when asked if they had been sexually harassed at work, but said yes to experiencing sexually explicit or sexist remarks.
Sexual harassers come in all forms. 75% of women said they were targeted by male co-workers. 10% say they were harassed by female co-workers. The number of women saying they've been sexually harassed is 4 times higher than the percentage of men saying they have been harassed. Nearly 80% of victims are women, 20% are men.
Sexual harassment is prevalent in all industries and fields. Food service, retail, STEM, entertainment, and legal have the highest reports of sexual harassment. Education and healthcare have the lowest. This is reported acts of sexual harassment. Both education and healthcare are female-dominated industries where victims are less likely to report.
Sexual harassment is an equal opportunity exploiter. It doesn't matter if you have a college degree or not. It crosses all races and ethnicities. In fact, research shows women of color are more likely to be targeted for sexual harassment due to racialized gender stereotypes. For example, African American women accounted for 15% of sexual harassment complaints, but make up only 11% of the U.S. workforce.
Very few people report sexual harassment. Less than 30% of women said they reported sexual harassment when it happened, with more than 70% remaining silent.
It's time to break the silence. We can only be heard if we speak up. We can only force a change if we speak out. If you experience unwanted sexual advancements or comments, clearly indicate you are uncomfortable with the behavior. Say no effectively and emphatically. Be firm rather than polite.
Write down a description of the event with dates, times, places. Give a detailed account. If the sexual harassment comes in the form of an email or a text, keep it. Tell someone you trust. Talk to friends, family members about the incident so they too can be part of the record. And then most importantly, report the harassment to your Human Resource Department or file a complaint with the Human Rights Commission. In CTA and NEA, reach out to an elected leader, to your executive director, or a colleague who will help.
In 1991, Anita Hill courageously testified before the U.S. Senate Judiciary Committee about the sexual harassment she experienced while working for Justice Clarence Thomas. For 3 days, she was grilled by an all-male committee about the graphic details of Thomas's comments and her personal life. However, her testimony Her testimony during those televised hearings launched national conversations and a greater understanding of what sexual harassment looks like. More recently, the women at Fox News who spoke out about being sexually harassed not only received a multi-million-dollar contract, settlement, but the man who sexually harassed them was fired. CTA must be a safe place. There's no excuse for sexual harassment, and using your voice can make a difference for people you don't even know. Reporting can be intimidating, but an injury to one is an injury to all. So if you see something, say something. And most importantly, do something.